Leaders of North and South Korea opened a new round of talks on reunification today, but they agreed on nothing. They wouldn't even shake hands as the meeting broke up. Ever since the Korean War ended in 1953, the two sides have been facing each other across an impenetrable border. Now the North Koreans have been shaken by the fall of other hardline communist regimes around the world, and they are determined not to go the same way. Bob Fall reports.
It might be 1990, but in Korea, the Cold War is as hot as ever. And the threat of invasion is taken as seriously here as in the Persian Gulf. 40 years after the Korean War, this is a place where roughly 40,000 U.S. troops still play policemen to the world. And along a heavily fortified border, the soldiers of South Korea practice how to kill the soldiers of the North. It's only ritual, but here where barbed wire and anti-tank barriers stretch for miles, where South Korea detects and then displays underground tunnels North Korea built to infiltrate its troops, where loudspeakers blare propaganda around the clock, here even rituals are deadly serious. When do you think an invasion by the enemy is possible?
Their invasion is possible at all times.
For now, 10 million Korean families, separated since the country was divided after World War II, can only pray for unification. For 45 years, they have not been able to write, to phone, or even to look upon one another. This housewife can only wonder if her parents and son are still alive. This grandfather can only dream of returning home. For now, the Korean people are pawns of two governments. South Korea, proclaiming its borders would open for 5 days in August, processed applications from 61,000 people who wanted to go north, even assembled and bussed hundreds to the DMZ. Not to be outdone, North Korean officials said their borders would open up too. But in the end, the two governments agreed on nothing. Although thousands of Koreans took out their frustrations on police, the borders stayed closed. No one went anywhere.
So on one hand, you are preparing for the possibility of war, but you are also, on the other hand, try to move forward in the unification front. So in some sense, the situation itself is contradictory.
The winds of change sweeping through the communist world have not swept through the repressive police state of North Korean strongman Kim Il-sung. Despite historic meetings between North and South Korean prime ministers, and despite pressure from the Soviet Union to open up, North Korea remains closed. Result? A lot of noise, the promise of more talks by officials, but very little change. So this remains the last outpost of the Cold War and also a symbol of a people divided, which despite recent proclamations from North and South Korea, neither country seems that willing or able to change. Bob Fall, CBS News on the border between North and South Korea.